very excited to have you all here. Thanks so much for coming to the Lunch and Learn. I appreciate it deeply. So I have a list of thank yous that I want to start off with. I'm Katie Lasley, HR Executive Director. Just to share, I've been in human resources here at UK for 20 years, so have had lots of experiences with career development within HR here at the university, and it's not a linear path will be the one thing that I'll point out right away, right? So you'll hear about that from our wonderful panelists that Damien's going to introduce. But first, want to start by thanking you each for taking time out of your busy days. I know what it's like to make that decision about, can I block my calendar for this? Do I ask my colleague if it's okay? Do I talk to my boss about how this is something I want to do? That's really good decision making to prioritize that time. So I appreciate that, and also want to have thanks to your colleagues who are helping with coverage while you're attending this. So it's kudos all around. Want to make sure that I also thank our panelists who you're going to be hearing from. They're the stars of today's Lunch and Learn. Yes, you're going to hear lots from them. Also want to give a big thanks to Diane Kohler, who is our career counselor. It's a very fancy thing for us in HR that we have a dedicated career counselor for our UK affiliate base, and it's awesome that we have her right here in HR, who's down the hall from many of us, and can utilize the resources. So thank you so much, Diane, for all the planning that's gone into this, as well as sharing your expertise in this venue and every day. Appreciate that. Also want to thank the HR at Work group. So folks, if you're new to us in HR, you know we do a employee engagement survey. We call it a UK at Work survey. We do it every 2 years, and the habit that we have built is that we'll conduct the survey. Then we do a series of focus groups, and then we develop a work group that will come up with action plans. Azetta is on that group, and I want to give special thanks to her. She has done so much work to make this Lunch and Learn happen. The full work group is Megan File, Lindsay Powell, Bess Miller, Amy Rockquist Cadet, and of course Azetta. So, and I get the pleasure of serving on that group as well. So many thanks to them. They would also like to say thank you to the folks who participated in the engagement survey and gave their feedback. We will be having our next engagement survey in September. So just want to connect that dot very firmly. The reason we do things like this and so many other things that we do here in HR, it's based on the feedback we get from the engagement survey, as well as the information that we get from the focus groups and all of the discussion that we have among the action plans. So when you get that invite to participate in the survey, please do it. We do things with that information. So that's very, very important. So my role is to say some things and then go away, is the plan. So I'm going to say some things and share some insights from our HR leadership team when we discuss this Lunch and Learn, what we're looking for in team members when we're seeking promotions. And then I'm going to go back to the HR Managers Retreat, which is actually going on right now, in part because of that conflict, but also because we want to make sure you guys feel comfortable to have a candid conversation. Sometimes people can feel a little reluctant to ask a question because they think, well, someone's going to think that's a stupid idea. And that is one of the downsides of the role that I'm in, is that sometimes people feel that pressure and feel like they may not be able to talk candidly. And that's okay. So I'll just leave. And you guys will be able to talk about whatever you want to, because truly the aim is to make this as useful as possible to you guys. So the ask for me before I hand off to Diane, our management team has a conversation about this Lunch and Learn and very supportive of it, and wanted to share with you guys what we're looking for when we are seeking individuals to fill a job. And oftentimes that's going to be a promotion of our internal employees. And it starts really with our guiding principles that are in our HR strategic plan. And you'll see what I mean by the role. Sometimes makes it difficult for people to communicate with me. How many of you guys have our strategic plan or know where you can get access to it? Okay, yeah, so you guys are making me feel really good. So that's great. So the guiding principles I'm going to list out, they're all in the HR strategic plan, with a couple of companion pieces. Talking about why those principles are important to us and what does it mean? Because collaboration to me might mean something different to you, right? it's very important to have that shared language and that shared understanding of what do we mean when it comes to squishy things like principles and values. So we definitely want to refer you to a strategic plan. The first one is collaboration. And that's something that we've realized in HR is that we really can't operate in a vacuum, right? Among our different units, with our partners across campus, we get nothing done without collaborating. None of us is able to do things really on their own when you stop to think about it. Integrity is always a core value. It has been the top one that's been drilled into my head working in HR for 20 years. Got to have that integrity. And that both means what you think of honesty and integrity, but also integrity of process, integrity of service, things that don't break, right? So there's a lot to think about with integrity. Expertise. Our customers lean on us for our expertise and our knowledge. That's why they want to have people specialize in human resources. It's because of our expertise. Innovation. Everything's changing. Just left the managers retreat that a few minutes ago was hearing about the new UK healthcare strategy, marketing strategy, and brand strategy, and how we're going to be so focused on supporting folks in the Bluegrass region and really focus on that ambulatory care. So that's a changing environment, right? So we're going to have that innovation within HR to keep pace in that shifting environment that we have in our business. And of course, inclusion and diversity. And HR feels this so strongly, and it's so important that we do it for ourselves, as well as make sure that we promote it across the institution. And that's a muscle I think that we every day need to exercise. So those are guiding principles, and we're always going to be looking for folks. The top competency that our management team talked about was people who make decisions that are consistent with those guiding principles and the university's values. Right? We all make decisions every day, and it's not just talking about, oh, it's a decision that might cost $2 million, or where do we spend this money, or what do we hire this? We decide who comes to the university in some senses, right? We hire people. We also make decisions about how we treat each other on a day-to-day basis. We're role models across the institution, so we really have to make sure that we demonstrate those guiding principles and that we stay consistent with the university values. So that's the first thing, is consistently making decisions that align with the values and HR's guiding principles. Doing a good job of building teamwork. So this is one that I think is really important, and I don't know that I realized it early on in my career progression at UK, but managers want folks that know they have that willingness to bring people with them, right? So building a team and being able to lead that team doesn't come with a title. You don't magically get those skills when you step into your first supervisory job, right? It's very much looking for folks who have that ability to develop teamwork and bring people together, decrease friction in relationships, and increase productivity in what we do on a day-to-day basis. The third one, treating all people with respect. Lots of intention in all people. Our customers, the folks who we interact with on campus when we're lost, the people that are on our teams, our employees, our supervisors, our colleagues. So that is the third one, treats all people with respect. And then the fourth one is really important too, and such a lifelong muscle workout is being able to work increasingly effectively with people different from yourself, which kind of is everything, right? There's a lot of different ways that you think about being able to work with people who are different from yourself. They might be in a different stage of life. They might have different priorities, which happens so often. And it's so critical to be able to work effectively with someone who they have a different goal than you do. So those are the four things that our management team wanted to offer to this group. The way to achieve those that they wanted to offer up, I'm certainly happy for Diane to provide more context here, but the simplest one that they recommended was to continually focus on your emotional intelligence. That was, upon reflection from the management team, the thing that they thought was the biggest make or breaker in promotional viability, is being able to identify where you are strong in your EQ and being able to build on that. And I know that we have some fun giveaways and raffle items that will help with those, and also we are very fortunate to have those resources in-house. So that is exactly 100 minutes. That is what my part of it. Anything you guys might want from me before I run away?
You mentioned brand. Would you say just a little bit about that?
About individual brand?
Yeah.
So
Some people aren't aware of that concept.
yeah, well, and I do not have an academic understanding of what it is. When I think about your personal brand, when I first came across the word brand, I was like, what does that mean? I do not understand. And some very smart marketing type person said a brand is a promise. Oh, okay. So my personal brand would be consistency in meeting what I say I'm going to do, right? Keeping my promises. People might have different personal brands, right? And the way I was introduced to the idea was to think about, well, what are your, I don't know, thinking of marketing, you need to think about what's true, like what resonates, is innate in you, and being able to grow and nurture that. If you're Dawn dishwashing liquid, you don't want to say that you're really good at cleaning clothes. You know what I mean? So it's identifying what's unique to you. See, that's part of my personal brand. Says things very strangely. So I have to lean into that because that's how my brain works. But the personal brand is something, again, with that conscious decision and making those decisions about how we are going to align with the guiding principles, how we're going to align with the UK values. What is it? What is your promise that you want to put out there in the workplace, and that consistently my colleagues, my customers, my peers are going to get what from me? That's what I would say for you. That works. Yes.
I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'm interested to hear where and what your career is.
Okay. Well, it's fun. So I'll repeat for people on the Zoom. The question is, what was my career progression at UK? It's been 20 years. So I'll try and go, there's no second. Okay. Try and go reasonably quickly. So I started at the university as a work study student, a student financial aid. Did that for a couple of years until I lost my funding because my older sister had graduated. I worked in student financial aid, so I saw right away that, well, I don't have any funds anymore in my student financial aid package. And they said, well, sorry, you can't work here anymore, but back there in that tan building, they hire students sometimes. So they sent me over here to Scola Hall. We had jobs posted on the hallway at that point. I had no idea what I was doing. I guess I'd been there before 499. No idea what I was doing. I was a junior. And they happened to be hiring for the runner. So the person who interviewed me, Billy Gosto. Does anyone remember Billy? Yay! So Billy interviewed me and she's like, well, you could probably do that. So I said, I'll take it because I had to pay for it. I had no idea what I was going to do. I just lost my job. So I did that for a while and I continued to go to school. And then the lady who worked the front desk in Steps, where Nancy Whitaker sits, she went on vacation to Vegas and liked it so much she didn't come back. So I presume good news. She didn't come back. It's true. So the lady who was the manager of Steps at the time said, so you've been delivering the mail. You're doing that. Can you sit over there and answer the phone and take in the job orders, which we wrote by hand? I was like, well, I can do that. So I did that in between classes while I finished up my senior year. And then after graduating, I decided to post that job regular. I thought, well, I got an English degree. I don't know what else I'm going to do. This works pretty well. I can walk here and applied for it, got hired for that job. It was amazing to me that I was in a job where I could schedule time off and still get paid. That blew my mind. I still remember that feeling of the euphoria of vacation leave and then also the residual guilt whenever taking sick day. It's inappropriate to take sick days. My own okay. After that, I did that for a year, and then there was a job I was really interested in that opened up at the time. We had a grant, the Welfare to Work grant, which worked with individuals who are transitioning off of TANF into work because they have put in legislation that put a limit on the number of months that individuals could benefit from temporary assistance for needy families. And also worked with the Crystal's House. So that was appealing to me. And I applied for that, and I was, again, shocked that they hired me. So I worked in that role for, I think, a couple of years, and then we lost the grant. Here we go again. Lost the student financial aid money, so we lost that grant, and I was like, okay, awesome. But somebody else on the team had left, so then I stepped into the temporary employment specialist job where I hired individuals for food service and grounds. Yep. I did that for about 5 years. Now, an important part of telling this story is to tell you also it's not a linear path. During the 5 years that I was in that role, I probably applied for 6 or 7 jobs, some in HR, some across the university, some outside the university. I obviously didn't get those. That happens. Patience and perseverance. So I did that for 5 years, and then an assistant manager job came up in employment. I applied for that. Shocked again that actually this time I did get the offer. Remember, I got the offer and sitting down in a chair and my leg just shot out. It was completely involuntary, and I said, "You're kidding." And they hired me. And I did that job for about a year, and the manager over employment at the time, Linda Blicchio, if anyone remembers her, she left. And I was like, "Oh, well, this is far too soon." It's just been a year. So I applied with her encouragement, applied and went through the competitive search process, and again was shocked that I got hired for that. So I was the employment manager. And I had been working at UK at that point for about, I think, 10 or 11 years. And then did that for about 5 years. Really enjoyed that. And then Kim Wilson needed someone to kind of go pinch it over in the College of Medicine. Pinch it. I'm not a sports person, but I use those all the time. I did. I was like, well, that's strange. I'm in a manager job, and I'll go over and be a business partner. So at that time, it was called an HR administrator, and went over to the College of Medicine on a temporary basis. Really loved working with the business. So they went to fill that job when the person had left. The person who had left, I was temporarily coming forward, stayed on. He went to the business, John Sampson, just him. Stayed in that role for, worked with Liz. It was great. It was great. Back then, that we would now be like, that was so fun. Because it was like dragging ourselves on our elbows. That's what it felt like. Did that for three years, and then have been in this role for 5. So, 20 years, right? Not everything was a home run. I think again, a sports thing, batting 50%? No, that's not how you say that. But about half the jobs that I've applied for yielded an offer when I think back to it. And I think that's a really important thing to share with folks. And I hadn't really thought about it until preparing for that. So, appreciate the question.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm definitely overstaying, so I'm going to sneak away. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, that was a great introduction. Just to kind of bounce off one of the things that Katie said, I brought some books from the browsing room downstairs, which is 124, and branding for dummies. Some really good ones here. Actually, Sally Hogshead, How the World Sees You. She's a very successful advertising and marketing executive, and so you get some ideas. Probably one of the father of branding and really marketing this concept is William Arruda. This is his first book, Career Distinction. He has a wonderful blog. He presents, internationally on this concept. Another author I like a lot, Vanessa Van Edwards, has written a book called Captivate. And then Dory Clark is a great go-to person if you want to learn a little bit more about this idea. I think brand sounds a little bit superficial. Anybody else have that sort of idea, like my brand? As Katie said, my Dawn dishwashing liquid. Think of it though as your reputation. Think of what you, in addition to all the things Katie said, think of the things that you are the go-to person for in your office, in your area, and make sure that's something you want to be known for also. So get on with the main attraction, which is our panel. Can I invite you all to come on up, and we are very anxious to hear your paths. Right here. All right, many of you know all or some of our panelists, and we're going to let them tell their stories rather than me introduce them. You know Danita, and I'm not going to say a word about her promotion because that's her story. You know Alex, next to Alex, you know Allie and Philip. So what we'll do here, Katie left a few questions I think that she talked with you all about. She'd like you to mention. I'll kind of prompt you if you forget. And I'm going to turn the mic over to you. Would you each just take a few minutes, however long you want, your 5-minute career story, just to kick off, and then we'll get in a little more depth.
Hello, everyone. I'm Danita Stevenson, and I currently work with the HR Business Partners. I support hospitals and nursing. My career path here at UK, this is my 3rd time working at UK. The last time I worked, I guess, before 2014 was in 2003. And I got a good offer at a company, corporate company downtown, so I decided to take that offer. I was there for 11 years. Then the company got acquired by another company, so I was laid off in 2014. Making a pretty good salary, but I didn't want to stay on unemployment. I wanted to work because I knew I had some skills, I had some knowledge to share with others. So place I wanted to come back to was UK. So I applied here at HR and just for various positions. And I think Alex was one person I talked to. I called him. He probably had me on, the dial like, that's her again. And I said, I need a job. And so I think he put me in contact with Ellen. And so I decided to go through steps. And I went through steps, got a steps position at the front desk in customer service. And it was several steps down. My salary was pretty much cut in half. And so it was a little devastating, but I was glad to have a position. Applied for the full-time position, got that in October of 2014. And one thing I remember, going from steps into the full-time position, and then, being a person that answered the phone on a daily basis, I was able to tell my story to those that were so, just down because they couldn't find a job and want to know, is this steps really all of that? So I was able to really sell steps because I was a success story. So I think in December of 2014, I applied for, like Katie said, applied for a couple positions. One position, I was down to one of the final candidates, and I didn't get the position. Jimmy got it.
I was hoping you wouldn't say that.
So anyway, went on and continued on and applied for a position. I was talking to it because I didn't know if this was really for me. but for the administrative support associate in career employment. And Crystal hired me, and it was one of the best areas that I could be in. And then I was promoted from front desk to career employment, and then during that time I applied for a position with the HR business partners to do something with IT, and I had the experience, but I didn't have the education because at that time only had associate's degree, and they wanted somebody with a bachelor's. So guess what that did? That encouraged me to go and seek my bachelor's, which I'll be getting hopefully by the end of this year. So that's been a wonderful experience. So I think the overall thing of what I want to say is that we have to remember to look at the big picture. I didn't see the big picture because, I was like, my money is cut in half, I don't have a degree, and now I'm, progressing forward. So then in April of last year, I was able to get another position with HR Business Partners, and that's where I currently am, and I'm enjoying doing what I'm doing. I think it's been a good path for me, and this is not the end. So.
Awesome. Thank you. Your journey, Alex.
All right. Well, I'm Alex Ortiz, and I'm currently in the pre-employment screening office, the pre-employment screening supervisor. So for my career path here at UK, I started at a time when I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I was going back to college after working in manufacturing for a few years, and started as the runner in HR employment. I had a friend that was moving to a different position. He was the runner. He said, "Hey, you should try this. Part-time, should work out well." So I got the position as the runner and really enjoyed it. Learned a lot right away about HR, UK, employment. And after a couple months, there was a position that came open in student employment for the administrative assistant. And so at the front desk, they encouraged me to apply to it. And I was wanting to do a part-time position and go to school full-time. This was, more hours, but it seemed like the position I was interested in it, and really liked the team and employment, just wanted a little bit more. So I applied, and they hired me, and I was a little bit surprised because a student hadn't been in that position before. So that was great, and then from there did start in school part-time. I did one semester full-time, and that was part-time throughout my career journey here at UK. So in student employment, I had a lot of great opportunities for public speaking and doing cold calls to businesses for them to post jobs with us. Also start learning a little bit about interviewing in the referral interviews. So I started to build up skills that have helped me ever since. That was a great opportunity. And then an opportunity came at the front desk. There was a part-time position. And the person left, and they needed someone to fill in. So I split my time between the student employment and the front desk. So they asked me if it was something I was interested in. Yeah, definitely. So I did both positions, about 20 hours each. And that was another great experience, just to learn even more about HR employment and start to get more exposure to the applicants and what they're going to do, and helping with applying for jobs and learning more about the OES, the UK job site. And then from there, I went to the pre-employment screening office as a coordinator. So we would coordinate all background checks and the drug screens. And this was a great position to start to have tougher conversations. So we will call people and let them know that we need to complete a drug screen within 2 business days, and sometimes plans like a wedding or they're on vacation. We still have to stick to 2 business days. So I started to have experience and conversations that sometimes weren't what they wanted, but be able to empathize and just learn that skill throughout and provide the best experience that I could. And that's always something I wanted to do. Always had a focus on customer service and trying to, no matter what, make it convenient and the best experience for the customer. While in the pre-employment screening office originally, there was a compliance coordinator position that was created. It was originally in employment. It was originally in comp, but it moved to employment, and I was really interested in it, applied to it, and didn't get it. And so about a year later, it was open again. The person that was in that role was promoted to employment specialist, so I applied to it and did get it the second time. And in this role, it was just so exciting for me because it had a lot of different components that I really enjoyed. So I would teach people how to use OES, and it was when we were implementing IES, so I got to learn about IES and just be an expert on it. And then also I really enjoyed researching, and so I was over the employment compliance for I-9s and CDLs. So I got to learn a lot about the CDL program, all about I-9s and visas, and that really just was fulfilling for me for just my natural curiosity and different subjects and getting to research and learn. While in this role, I took on additional tasks that needed to be done at the time because we were moving from OES to IES, and we've been with OES for, I think, 12 years. So I learned how to use Adobe Captivate and started to create trainings and also assisted with a lot of the classroom trainings at the time of the transition. And with that and some of the additional other duties that I took on, the position, my supervisors noticed that I was doing more than was one of my job duties, and was reevaluated, and actually the grade level went up. And so there was one promotion that I had where it wasn't so much applying for a different position. I just was able to take on additional responsibilities and it was recognized. And then, for that, I was able to work with such a diverse population. While I was in compliance coordinator, I moved away, about 90 miles away, and wasn't planning to stay at UK. I thought it was going to be too far of a commute. But while I left, I decided, and it worked out that we were able to, for 20 hours, do steps during the transition. UK was looking for someone to fill the position, and I was looking for another position. I didn't have a job in my new home, and it just worked out. And I was able to work with the supervisor and the rest of the team and see what all we could do and leverage technology. And it worked really well. And we just determined, if I came in twice a week, that would help to best serve our customers and the team, and also work for me. So work from home 3 days a week and work here twice. And so I was rehired back into a staff position. So 2 times steps, success story. And so that was great. And then from there, when an opportunity in the pre-employment screening office came back as supervisor, my director asked if I would be interested in doing that role temporarily, and then see how it worked out. And then when the position was posted, I was acting role. And when the position was posted, I applied and was selected for it. All throughout, I really just had a curiosity, wanted to research, learn more about how everything worked. I had a lot of opportunities to be a part of different teams, and Katie was talking about the teamwork. So when I was the compliance coordinator originally, I was in 109 with the rest of career employment, and I attended their biweekly meetings, and it was mostly to help with issues with IES, because it was still new back then. But I learned a lot of what they were doing, and so that was great, just to really be a part of the team. I always loved the team. and just wanted to know more that I could do and try to help in different ways. That was my career path. So far.
I'm really nervous. I get really nervous with people that know me, not strangers I'm better at. So, I graduated from UK in 2014. It was a stigma in my head that I had to have a job prior to graduation, like benefits. I had to have something to get benefits. And so I got a job that is not even listed on my resume because I was only there for like 90 days. I wanted an outside sales rep opportunity because I wanted to work from home. I wanted to do all this, whatever. So I got a job with a company called State Industrial Products. They basically sold commercial cleaning supplies. And very shortly after getting that job, I absolutely hated it. We did sales routes all around the state, and then I was by myself in my apartment over at Newtown Townhomes over off South Broadway, and I would sit by myself all day, and I hated it. I hated not interacting with others, having a manager on site to help me, things like that. So I left for some various reasons, but that was my first job out of college. While I was there, I had a friend from college that kind of recruited me to a recruiting and staffing company, Aerotech, that's private here in Lexington. So I interviewed, got that job, and I was hired as a skilled trades recruiter. It was awesome. I absolutely loved it. I was in manufacturing plants, meeting with all the managers. I did interviewing for different candidates and would go sell them to companies basically for interviews on site, do all the interview preparation, consulting, things like that. And it was awesome. And I know that there's a lot of people that start their career in recruiting and staffing, but it's a grind. Like I worked 12-hour days. I was never home. I was not taking care of myself. It was just every day. On the weekends, you were on call if people didn't show up, things like that. But that's really where I kind of found what I really liked, and it was connecting with people, seeing them be successful in their careers, working with managers, things like that. And that's where I kind of found out that I really wanted to do HR, and that's where I wanted to live. So I, due to just like working 60, 70 hours a week, things like that, it just got to a point I had gotten engaged. So like my personal life was changing too. And so I started looking around. So I applied to UK probably 10 different positions while I was at Aerotech. The employment specialist position in career employment is the only job that I ever was interviewed for. Crystal called me, and I was just like over the moon. I will never forget, I went to Barnes & Noble on my lunch break because I worked out in Hamburg, and I sat with headphones in, and Kingsley and Crystal phone screened me. I had everything written out. I was a recruiter. I knew what to prepare for. I had like 10 pages. I was like, there's no way that I'm not going to get this job. Like, I have to get it because I need out of here. I was brought in, or I ended up getting the position as the floater in career employment. I remember one other thing was when Crystal, I was making a very good salary at Aerotech. I was a salary employee, whatever, but when Crystal called to extend the job to me, she made me think about it. Like, I immediately accepted, but she was like, I really want you to think about it. This is a salary decrease. And I was like, okay, but in my mind, I was like, I don't need time to think about it. I know that I'm accepting this job. Okay. And so she called me back probably like 4 hours later. I didn't think she was going to call me back. I thought it was going to be like a next day thing. So I was a little worried about that. And I was like, absolutely, I'm not just accepting this job for money. It's like a work-life balance too, and the expectations that way. So I was in a floater position for like 3 or 4 months. And then we had people get promoted, people leave UK, and I ended up shifting over to hospital as the employment specialist. I was in that role for 2 years, and then last year I was promoted to an employment consultant for a hospital. And that's where I'm in the house now.
Hi everyone, I'm Philip Neely, more Morrison. I'm the family medical leave administrator for campus employees here at EK. Part of leave administration, which does the workers' comp and long-term disability, and also part of employer relations. So my career path a little bit, I didn't start off at EK. I actually, when I first moved to Lexington, I graduated from University of Cumberland, Williamsburg, moved up here, and my first job was Sunbeam City, which was sales for me. Starting off there, I was at Sunbeam City for 3 years. I was promoted to the salon director there. So it was a sales position, commission-based, and also a management position for me. In that meantime, I was working on my master's in psychology. So for me, my career path, I kind of jumped around because, being in sales at Sunbeam City, I didn't want to be there anymore. I wanted to try something else. I wanted to work in my field. So after that, I started applying for jobs at Eastern State Hospital, which is an affiliate for EK. I wanted to actually work in the field that I got my master's in. So started off at Eastern State. I got a call in 2015 to, basically just be a floor tech, so to speak. So I took a big pay cut because I wanted to work in my field, and I was willing to do that because I wanted to apply what I had learned in school in the job that I was applying for. So started off there, got accepted, started there working on the floor, working with mentally ill patients. That was an experience because it gave me a new perspective on society as a whole and working with this demographic of individuals. So definitely opened my eyes up to that world and that realm, especially in healthcare. Enjoyed that, and then a position came open in the pharmacy. They were an administrator, and where I'd been in sales before and in management and other jobs. I'd done administration stuff, so I took the job there, applied for that. Didn't get it the first time. Actually, one of my friends on the floor, she got offered the job, but she didn't take it because she got a better job offer at another hospital. So I was choice number 2. So the pharmacist came to me and asked, well, do you still want to take this job? And I said, yes. I've been on the floor for a little over 8 months, and I was starting to get the burnout because working with that demographic, that's a very big trend, is you get burnout easily in the upper role. So I took that job, and then I was there about a year, and they had a pharmacy tech position opened up. And, for me, even though I had my master's, I was still working a little bit with that demographic. So I decided, I'll take the test, I'll study, I'll do what I can. It'll just give me more skill sets. Because one thing I always look at when I transition from one job to the next, I take the skill sets I learned from one, how do I apply them to the other? And I always look at each job opportunity for me as an educational experience. So I'm constantly learning something new. I'm constantly getting more skill sets. I'm just getting, and I like learning. So for me, it's like I've always enjoyed school. So I look at job at school as like I'm constantly in an educational setting where I'm learning something new. And especially with trends, there's always there's new laws, there's new technologies. I like to immerse myself in learning that because it constantly keeps me active and up to date. So I was in that role. I was the administrator. I applied for the tech job. Was going to take the tech job, but the money wasn't comparable to what I was already doing, and I was going to be doing double the work. So at that point, I decided to start looking. I wanted to be fully UK. So I kept applying for position. Finally, the lead administration position for the workers' comp and long-term disability administrator came open, so I applied for that. Got called for an interview, which shocked me because I've been applying for months and I hadn't heard anything. It was just the generic email that everyone sees, you've been referred to the hiring manager. So I was surprised when I got the call. I was actually on vacation at Universal in Florida and got the call, and I was like, yes, I'll do the interview. This is the day I'll be back. Got called for that, did the interview. Panel interview freaked me out because I've never done panel interviews before in any job, so that was a new experience for me, which now looking at it, I enjoyed it because, you get to meet more faces and they get to tell you a little bit about their roles and things like that. So the panel interview was very nerve-wracking for me the first time because I've never done it. And then, I took the job, it was accepted. It was a pay increase from what I was doing at Eastern State. I was glad to come over here and finally be fully at UK. And then with about a year, the family medical administrator for healthcare, Whitney, she took a position fully at healthcare. And then Lindsay, my coworker, she stepped up and took on Whitney's role as the UK healthcare. So it was within our department, lead administration. So it came open, and I'd already been cross-training to do family medical leave. And I'd done a little bit of family medical leave for the education in the past. My only experience with it was working with pregnant and maternity employees that needed family medical leave when babies come. So and I wanted to learn more on that side. So cross-training really helped me there. So I applied for that position, did another panel interview, which was still nerve-wracking, especially when your coworker's on the panel. So, and then, went through that whole process and got offered the position for the campus family medical leave. And the one thing I appreciate is I've learned so much just getting into the role I'm in now, because what little knowledge I had of family medical leave, taking on the role now, it gave me so much more that I never really realized before. And, always look, like I said before, I always look at every job I've ever had. I take bits and pieces of the skill set I learned from one, how I can apply it to this. And I let my boss know, this is things I've done in the past. This is how I learned this, and this is how I can apply it into this. So it's kind of like your.
Thank you. Before we open this up for questions from the group, one last thing. Katie and I talked about this, and we wonder, what would your today self tell your younger self, whether it was your younger self 2 years ago, 10 years ago? What advice would you give yourself? Share the mic.
I guess I would tell my younger self not to be so concerned about money. Be concerned how you impact others, how you serve others, and the money will come, But to get all the experience you can, learn all you can, do all you can while you can, and as you progress, you can get into that, areas that you never thought, because I never thought I would be in HR. I mean, that was not one of my career paths. I always wanted to be a singer, but it's a little different. But anyway, so I would tell my younger self to not, just take it as it comes and let it flow. It'll grow to where you want it to be.
Well, for me, I think just if I would have maybe been more confident in some of my ideas and decisions, kind of based on feedback that I had from the supervisors, they would have brought things up more often, or maybe had more opportunities. I don't know. When I would ask for opportunities to cross-train or to serve on different committees, it would take a while to build up to that. I'm like, well, I don't know, why they would do that. It doesn't directly relate to my position. But I did, and it definitely helped and provided great experience outside of my exact role that's helped me in my career.
Thanks, Alex.
To me to touch mine. Mine was don't chase after the money. Obviously, it'll come with time and hard work. And one thing at Aerotech that I learned, we always had, what is your why? Like, why do you wake up and come to work? Like, rather than thinking about money solely, like, why do each of you get up and get out of bed and go to work? Like, there's a lot of different ways you can think about it that way. And like, I'm always thinking 5 steps ahead. So what am I doing today to get to those 5 steps ahead? And just understanding that and then adapting it to your career. And we were also asked, I'm sure we're running out of time, but three things that make a difference in your career path. And I'll just tidbit because I like them and hopefully others do too. Involvement and participation, being on anything that you can, as long as you can obviously do your work that you have in your role. I've been able to develop a lot of relationships with people in other areas outside career employment, and I love every aspect of it. So that's one thing that I recommend. Obviously, building relationships with not only your team, but other areas. I think HR is in a really good position that we have so many people doing so many different things, and we're all under the same umbrella. And cross-training, learning what Philip does, like, I don't know a ton of it, but it would be awesome for me to learn. That way we better like ourselves, but we also better the customers that we're serving too, and being the go-to person to meet the needs of people here at the university.
So probably what I would definitely tell myself is you're not going to become the CEO of a company as soon as you get out of school. So definitely get out of that millennial mindset of I'm going to have the best job, I'm going to hit the ground running as soon as I get out. So I would definitely tell myself that. And like Katie said, it's not always, progression's not going to be straightforward. Sometimes it's linear, sometimes you'll take a step back, sometimes you'll take a step, 5 steps forward, and that's completely fine. But that's something, I would definitely look back and tell myself, don't just chase, the job with the money, because it might be something that you wake up every morning and you're dreading. You don't want to go to work. And when you have that mindset, that mentality, your job is not enjoyable. That's all it is. It's just a job. It's, nothing worse. So definitely for me, I would tell myself don't mindset. Don't chase after that title, because that title doesn't mean you'll be happy. So.
Thank you.
Alex, I did not ask each of you the question about the career development team, so I'm glad you brought that up.
That's okay. Just because she took mine, I was like, I gotta think of something else.
Anything else you want to say before we turn it over to group?
Yeah, well, 3 things that, I think that made a difference for me in my path. I had leadership that was willing to listen to ideas and if I presented them. So once I started to present ideas and ask for opportunities, they would listen to that and try to provide those. And then I also took all the training development and career employment classes that I could. So that helped a lot with customer service, and they're really interesting, like working with generations. And as far as like personal for interviewing, doing the BPI behavioral-based interviewing 1-day training made a huge difference in my ability to interview and to really know what they're asking for, like with the STAR. That helped. I remember my first panel interview was rough, and they were trying to get the whole everything, the situation task, and that just helped a lot and made me more comfortable in future interviews. It's always tough for me. That definitely helped. And then, like Alex said, I was just involved in everything that I could be. Of course, while maintaining, being able to complete my duties. And I just wanted to learn everyone's role and cross train. I'd sit on meetings that I could. I'd asked if cross train with career employment years ago, and so did like a pilot cross training. That really helped later on to know how they did PARs, and actually helped out one time. And so I think that really helped. And then also for like identifying my career path, I didn't know this was what I was going to do. Like growing up, I was going to engineer and like work on race engines and things like that, or computers. And so, but I just really always enjoyed customer service and love the team here. And so I just asked for opportunities and volunteered for projects or committees. And a lot of things just happened. It wasn't necessarily chasing money. It was more just curiosity. Like, what is this role like? Can I do it? How can I make an impact in this role? And I think one thing I've been able to do throughout is make some positive changes and roll up in it. And I've just really enjoyed it.
Awesome. All right, thank you all. We'll bring the mic around to, what do you all want to ask? What didn't we ask that you want to know? Do we have some bribery giveaways?
I think we do.
For like the person who asked the first question. Excuse me. I made a promise. I need to fill it. I said the microphone.
And one of these give way to the person that asked the first question. Are you the first question?
Yes.
All right.
Well, I don't know if it would count because it's really not a question. It's kind of a statement.
Are you
But
giving
I'll
me
take-
that?
Okay.
I can make it form it. Great job, Pam. I just want to say that I was thinking more on the personal brand topic, and I have worked or communicated or dealt with all of you all previously, except for Allie. Actually working with Allie now, but in some previous roles, I've had communication with Delita, as well as Alex and Philip. And I just want to say that your personal brand has always, all the dealings that I've had with you three has always been awesome. Your customer service skills have always been top notch. You've gotten back to me and answered any questions that I've had. I felt like I was probably the only thing that you had to worry about that day, and I know I wasn't. So just wanted to say that I'm not surprised that you're sitting up there and that your journey has taken you where it has because of the personal work experiences that I've had with all of
Give him another gift.
you. So personal brand is
Another question.
And this is to any of y'all, at what point in your life did you decide that you were ready for a change? As you know, to go further, like in different positions and stuff that you've been in, how do you know that it was that time?
For me, once I felt like I'd done the most in that position that I could, I started wanting to be interested more in other positions. And that's something I've always enjoyed, whether it's in student employment or even as a runner. And back when before UK, I felt like that manufacturing role that I was in, I learned everything that I could. I was able to, they would pull me off the line to go and do like repairs and things like that. I felt like I was an expert. So once I got to that position, or to that point in any role that I was in, I felt like it was time for me to just take on new challenges. But I always want to improve. It's like not just in my position, but everything. And I want to figure out how I can make things more efficient, faster. And that's like dead times at home, everything. I can watch this. And so I think that's just part of my personality. But once I get there, okay, well, it's time for a new challenge.
I just was gonna say expert. So I remember, so when I was the transition to the employment specialist for hospital, Ashley Myers, if anybody remembers her, she left UK and she was the consultant. Well, I had only been at the university for 6 months, I think. And I went to Crystal, and Katie remembers this, and I asked her, I was like, do I apply to this? Like, am I ready for this? And she, I respect it now looking back, but, she told me typically you aren't an expert at this, short of time. Typically people are employment specialists for 1 to 3 years essentially before transitioning up, because there's so many different things that happen in our area. You really need to be an expert before transitioning to the next step. So I respect Crystal for being open and honest with me about that. And I think as leaders, we all really need that, in hopes of it being encouragement too.
So I think for me, I realized, because I come from a sales background, which was customer service oriented, that my thing was I got to the point where I felt like my best was never my best, so I was giving 110%, but they wanted 100. They wanted more than that, and having a sharp mentality in sales, I felt like I was doing a disservice to the customer base. So for me, that was my realization: is I wanted to be out of an industry where you weren't. I wanted to be in an industry where you're benefiting the company, but you're also giving benefits to the customer base you're working with. Whereas sales, to me, it's more of it's just the benefit of the company. The person might need it, but when you're a salesperson, you're selling them something they may or may not need. Whereas here, we're in an industry where we're giving people things that they need to better themselves. So for me, that's how I needed to transition out of sales and take a step back, which I was completely fine with. So, because I knew I had to take a step back to move on to something else that I wanted to transition into.
I knew I needed a change when the position that I left back last April. I processed all the parts for campus and software healthcare. And I got to the point where I just was challenging myself every day. Okay, tomorrow I'm going to do, yesterday I did 60, I'm going to do 65 today. And then the next day it's going to be 70. And so it was more of a process instead of, my mind being, moving forward, learning more. I felt like I was just kind of stagnant, challenging myself to do more parts, which is not really, it was good, but I needed more motivation. I need to know that I could be a part of some collaborative area and so forth, which career employment was great, but I needed more stimulation for my mind and just to learn more and grow more. So that's when I knew that it was time for me to start looking for another.
Other questions from out here in the audience? I agree.
Okay, so it's working. I didn't break it. Okay. I knew I would do something embarrassing. So thank you all so much. Katie was talking before you all came to begin your stories about those qualities that HR is looking for, like integrity and emotional intelligence. I'm sure you all are all very lovely and probably have a lot of positive characteristics, but which one do you think was the push for you in the promotion that made you stand out from the crowd?
That's a good one. I can go first. Just because I don't want the meter to steal it. So I think mine specifically is teamwork. I'm very big on, and this is just my personality too, rather than a phone call or an email, if I'm asking a question in Scoville Hall, I'm coming to your office. I might link you and be like, hey, are you there? Because I want to just tackle it all together, the teamwork mentality, building a team to go at something all together and get all the different viewpoints that we need. And I think that's what's really important to me for my branding per se. Who would like to go next? Or you want to go?
I think the biggest part for me is customer service. I think the opportunity to speak to people every day on the phone and then at the front desk, and just seeing people, because I know I've been in frenzies and, didn't know how to go forward, do this or that, and just be able to help somebody feel more confident in being here at UK and feeling like I really got what I needed from this person. So I think that's kind of part of my brand is this customer service, because I like to serve people.
Maybe, I don't know, it's kind of hard to say. I would think maybe customer service or integrity, also teamwork. I think there's aspects that have done in all those that kind of still was known. And so even, expertise. So I feel like I just naturally aligned with a lot of the, all the strategic plan, and those qualities.
I think for me, it was probably integrity and customer service. Like for me, whenever I'm communicating with people, I put everyone on the same playing field. Title to me, I acknowledge that they have a title and congratulate them for the hard work that they've done. They got it. But at the end of the day, to me, everyone's on the same playing field. So, and that's something I've always taken in all my interviews. I treat everyone equal. My boss is my boss. I respect him, but he's still, an individual at the end of the day. So for me, that's, part of my brand is that everyone on the same playing field, no matter what their title is or how much money they make, everyone's equal in my eyes, no matter what. So, and that's something I try to brand part of myself. So.
Nice. Another question? Anybody have a last burning question or question?
Where do you see ourselves in like 5 or 10 years from now? In the same position you're in, or
What you say here stays here.
and I'm home today. That's a good question. You're welcome. Well, as I said before, I see myself with a degree. And, I would like to stay with my same team, but maybe HR business partner. So we'll see. Thank you.
Yeah, it's hard to say in career development looks so different. It doesn't have to be a different position. I can just develop, my current position. I did mention I started back at UK and started on my bachelor's. I did finish that this May. So part of my journey here. So it's I don't know, it's hard to say really where hopefully still just trying to make a difference.
I have no clue, but I really liked healthcare, but I know little to nothing about campus, so it'd probably be a good idea for me to learn campus side. But I like the business operations over in the HR business partner team. I have no clue. I think I struggle a little bit on the management side just because I don't have experience that way. And the only way I'm ever going to get that is if I get promoted to a manager opportunity. So I don't really know. I like my area a lot, so it's hard to say for 5 years.
It's definitely hard to decide. I do know I've had my master's completed for a few years, and I know I do want to finish my PhD, but I don't know in what area yet. So that's something, and it's also trying to find the time to be able to do that type of program and work and, be with your family and still have me time. So that's always been one of my goals, to finish PhD. But, I still want to see myself here at UK. I don't really plan on leaving. I like how I'm fully at UK. I like being here. So I definitely know I'll be here at UK somewhere in 5 years, maybe not this position. Hopefully I'll have my PhD done by then. So.
Awesome. Thank you all. Anything else? Probably need to do a time check because I know everybody has commitments to get to. Well, I'm going to ask, is that all right? You're kind of a captive audience here. I want you to feel free to get up, get more lemonade, get more tea, but also to leave the room if you have an appointment. I will not hold that against you, but I am on the schedule to just give you a few tips and So really, I mean it. Leave, run around, get lemonade. I don't want anyone to feel that they are stuck here because we've already gotten tips between Katie and this panel. It's been pretty amazing. Because Ozetta asked me to, I put a few ideas on paper for you. But you don't need these, you already know what you're gonna draw. I'll leave them up here. Okay, you want to take those? Would you like? Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. Everybody being here.